So I'm going to read 6 short poems. And the first one is called Jokes. It is a means of taking inventory. Good night, nurse, the sun. The book is comprised of several smaller staple books. I am 33. It's more like I know what works. You don't lose your way of hearing language. Jokes to pair off like a gift and curse. Lately I think of poking out the changes, unfamiliar with my tools. Ideas are priceless. It seems less a matter of execution. Scored these complete sentences instantaneously. Other advice, be as hard on yourself, harder in fact. Occasional pieces, poems for birthdays, drawings, lowering the bar, which is really me tricking myself, letting new color and weights flood the arrangement. It's still a bit of a forbidden city, a matter of courtship, a classic American carnival in the middle of New York Chinatown. It has all been through invitation. Seattle, Portland, Philadelphia, Boston, and New York twice. The content of this book come to life. So many hot groupies. I've just got to write another book for all the wrong reasons. By any means necessary. Take me away from my life. Fever. And this was written after a drawing by Philip Guston. Fever. I take a vacation in color. I frost and sweat, the diamonds drip to eyeballs, smoking in bed. The beam's dead tired, strung out at that left. The stone opens right up, linking light and the rest I take, unfolding the throne. Sure to lock off new illusions, bits of statuary, bloodshed. The sun carrying 2 valises, thin, broken, fused. The back half of the line is invited to lead, at ease in mid-air. I like to leave the end with that flint-like spark, something to hang the next line of figures onto. Light and airtight mortar, foil plotting certain of my poems pile up where the edges make their own lines, overlaid and crowded out. Plains pictograph. I have been described as private. That's other people you never really know. One year I sent everyone a slice of the rose for Christmas. It was meant the way it sounded, withdrawn. 2 fires on the high road whistling. The phone only echoes back my voice. Entrenched mirror, high rise, intense pathways. Pistol unit, sword, English glossing, streetlights sniping back. Mothers, lock up your daughters, cut the light, shut the shade, hollow thy mountain. I think I still am, stirred mind, heard words, some of those nightmares, some of these days. Just a gigolo, solo, Sears, free land, blow your gold leaf sweetheart deals, and money to my love letters, rivulets, tons. Minutes to go, blinding ices, Jesus pieces, high praise. And this is the piece that was in 14 Hills. It's called A Gentlemanship for Naoki Onodera. Fruit bowl, pipe, and glass, my shirt's all torn. The very tips of the tall trees, black chalk. 2 blue and red flames are monuments, still sorting out extension. Very slight cross lights cut through mist. Sidewalks are wet and placed under my feet, piece by piece. The Holy Ghost building as I walk. I sing some long-lost disco in tank top and dust mask, passing back through Sycamore. Your stories, in English, are keys to be left in the doors. Grizzly chasing you down a long, thin beam, a tree of no leaves, lots of dead branches. Hang on. And this is the last one. It was written for my friend Nathan for his birthday. A Fine Romance for Nathan Burlingame. I slept adrift in the meadow and later stumbled up a staircase, only to charm its pretty owner. She invites me to stay. Everything is really taken care of in advance, it seems. Well, I said, I will now have to find my way back. I own some instruments I cannot seem to live without playing. Their nearness, their history. The head of my grandfather's fiddle had the head of Satan self-carved. I was often made to play to make ends meet. A caravan through Mexico, past its temples. We would stop and take pictures of families of tourists. Even the natives wanted to claim me. I had to slip out past the smokehouse the night of my wedding. I didn't even need an instrument. I could charm them with my talking voice. I stayed eternally present, always brushed my teeth. I felt not only indestructible, but irresistible. I didn't know how good I had it stumbling into this woman's clutches. Even if I had been straight out of prison, it never would have come up. We were never stressed. I learned to sit perfectly still. It seemed to elicit pure lust in strangers. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. It's nice to be reminded of my entire life. To begin with, I was born. This poem, I like to give myself assignments, and I like when other people give me assignments. It started because I'm restless, you know, I don't sleep much at night. I'm thinking about the problems of the world, which are many. And I got this email at about 3 o'clock in the morning from the founder of the OccupyWriters.com movement to support Occupy Wall Street. And she asked if I would send a poem or something. And I thought everybody was doing it. So it turned out, at first it was just me and Francine Prose and Lemony Snicket. Mine was even an actual poem. Francine writes prose, like her name. And, Lemony Snicket. It got a lot of, it got a lot of attention very quickly. I don't feel like I own this poem. It was really actually just something I wrote in the body of an email, and it took me about 20 minutes. So even though it'll be in the next book, I've arranged legally to keep this poem in the public domain. It belongs to everybody, or anybody who wants to put their name on it. That's okay. Revise it, please. It's called The Great Unrest, and it begins with an epigraph from Job, the long-sufferer, who says, "When I lie down, I think how long before I get up. The night drags on, and I toss and turn until dawn." You'd think, bedraggled as I am by the illness of my age, I'd be able to lounge a little. That I'd shut out the noise as others do, and I would sigh and sleep. Let me eat Tootsie Pops, I'd think. Let me lay in the moonlight and grow the opposite of baby fat. Lie, I mean. Let me lie. I have had to wrestle with grammar all my life and what people call ideals. I used to love ideals, but that wasn't cool. Plus, there was money to be had. And ass. Scads of ass. Now I forget the principle's your pal and not the principle. At least I've retained that. Give up your sleepless nights, the man on TV said, talking to me. Like, how did he know? I could have dozed through half a dozen shows and all the ads. Even commercial noise might have eventually been absorbed into my dreams. It might have become my dreams. But it's hard for me to lie still, lay still, while I am getting fucked. Sorry. It's late and you've been at me all night and I hadn't risen from it. I was tired. I'm even more tired. But now I'm up. The great unrest. We're all getting fucked in our sleep. Get up. Do something. This is from 14 Hills and it's called Backdrop with Splashes of Cum on it. Often I got stuck to the bottom of someone's shoe. You've got a wad of toilet paper on your shoe, his friends might observe. Well, what do you know about that, he'd say. But let's see how far this goes. His turn, he felt a tickle in the back of his throat. My turn, I went down easy as a good line of coke. And so it went. He stripped me down like a stick of good poplar used as a switch. I got quite a bit done in those meetings. 10 minutes here, 10 minutes there. You might use the mouth as you use the lavatory. Now that's industrious. In that case, go ahead. Our love was lonely as a hand job and as frequent. I try to tell him that in a better way if I could. Usually not. Those cigarettes will kill you, man, he'd say. And maybe they will. Come to think of it, maybe they will. That's the way we talked. We lived in an age of adolescence and irony. Unless I'm thinking of another dude. That happens a lot. How could you have anything but a vague memory of a guy whose savoir-faire was delivered in the form of, I already told you that I think you're hot? Well, suddenly the present arrives and it's an autopsy. Maybe not that traumatic. How about the nerves eroding? Slowly the levee gives way. Or maybe there's just a bad bout of hail. A surprising amount of hail considering it usually won't hail here. Wind catches you off guard, upending lawn furnishings, overwhelming the poultry. Yardbirds called a yardbird, you see, on account of it don't fly. When I see the flattened box of an outbuilding lying in a rusty rhombus on the ground, I think of so-and-so, or Hooja-Madooji. That's where I met him, the man who was it for now, the Luke who was my Mark, the Matt who was my John. So many X. Don't encourage me. This poem takes its title from a poem by Frank O'Hara, which took its title from Beethoven, who've got it from Schiller. So it's a purloined title. It's called Ode to Joy. It is set in the Central Valley of California, where there's not a lot to do except drive and hope you get to someplace better. And it has, you will hear inside of it, a buried sonnet. And it's only a sonnet, not from the int words, because that would sound clunky. So each line has the same beginning word, so you don't notice it. But now you're going to notice it, because I told you about it. Sorry. This is called Ode to Joy. So many automobiles, it must be Friday night. These are the golden eyes of Catatonia, of the valley of. They are the lights of. Their procession is a thread of yellow ore. Across one bridge, across another confluence of rivers, the ones that sometimes leave their beds and leave the shambled houses there. Well, even to belong in this congested state, you have to spend a little bourbon on your nerves. They keep their low beams on. It's part of a subset of belong. Switching gears to Slaughterhouse Road or Garden Highway or up to the junction or out to the boat ramp at Cottonwood Star Bend. Everyone's a little wet in the V tonight. They're all getting sticky on the bucket seats. In their humid zones, there are humid smells. They stopped for eats. Will everyone be fed this good in heaven? Hey there, cowboy, here's your Whopper. All roads lead first to Burger King, it seems. Or how's Grub Steak, home of the Dude Burger? This is one of those dreams that cause sleep eating, in which, as we float across a tiny bridge, our bodies, patty and bun, converge, and all we got to do is put the mustard on. The condiments of can't stop your heart. Of intimacy that flourished here, an outlaw, just as the outlaws themselves had flourished in the slapstick gold rush days, and men who came from China without wives, and boys who bundled together in the Okie jalapenos. Girls finding their way together through the pass, and others leaving Mexico or Vietnam behind, could reinvent the space they occupied. Of teens, as teens must do, eating the potato nuggets of cupidity, scheming them onto that hunting road of dirt, whereupon the greatest intimacy of and in and through occurs. Of all the random shots one young man takes, of hit and run trade, the hidden features of men with boogie woogie on their minds, their cups of ketchup and other dipping sauces creating little O's of transparency in their suck-me-off jeans. Of horrible missteps with fucked-up chums, of low desire, of powerful urges, of release by one's own adulterous hand, of the feeling of somebody else should drive. Push, Push in the Bush is the title of a dance hit, but it's just as easily a country song. Out there in the dark, they have found each other like lightning bugs, despite the pesticides, despite the blights that hit a town's periphery and stay. There is a luminescence of all things which are of a place, the place where they begin, therefore belong. And I'm going to end with this poem. This is going to be in the next issue, the next issue of the New Republic, which I think is odd. I'm always sending them dirty poems. They like it a little rough. But this is not that, you know, so that's why I'm surprised. This poem it was written while I was living in North Carolina. I went to hear an organ recital, and an organist named Thomas Warburton played a piece by Messiaen called A Song for Little Birds and Waters. And the left hand of the organ plays all of these gurgling sounds of waters, and the right hand of the organ plays the songs of birds. And I thought, I would love to be able to do that in a poem, but I couldn't figure out how to do that. So I wrote this instead. It's called Mass for Pentecost, Canticle for Birds and Waters. There is no cause to grieve among the living or the dead, so long as there is music in the air. And where the water and the air divide, I'll take you there. The levee aureate with yellow thistles, white moth, wasp, and dragonfly. We could not wish unless it were on wings. Give us our means and point us toward the sun. Will the spirit come to us now in the pewter patent of the air, the fluted call of dabbler drakes, the deadpan honk of the white-fronted goose, the tule goose, tongues confused in the matchstick rushes, high, high the bald-pate cries, and in the air, and in the air, the red-winged blackbirds chase the damselflies. Triumph over death with me, and we'll divide the air.
Excited because I won the Phil's coffee. Their iced coffee with the cardamom is very good. I'm going to read from the story that's in the issue. Oftentimes writing is fun after you've written. Having written is more fun than actually writing. But the story in the magazine is special to me because I had so much fun writing it. It's sort of what I think to be a fable in a way, and I hope you have fun reading it. And is it, yeah? Okay. And just to make things complicated, I'm going to start reading from the middle. How about that? The story, well, I won't even explain anything. I'll just start reading from the very middle. And I'll try to use fun voices, though it's not in my nature. Fall leaves. The leaves fall like wadded up brown bags. So there's no way to contact you, Mother says. I'm talking to her from the phone booth at the park, where hot afternoon light makes me feel like a bug trapped in amber. A man waiting for the booth urinates into the bushes. No, I say, I've stopped paying the mobile service. So there's no house telephone. Oh God, no. I hear her standing still. She's probably in gray. Her favorite colors are gray and leopard print. She also likes sopranos, seascape paintings, and at Christmas she decorates the dining room table with a miniature New England winter scene. It must be nice, my dear, she says, to have the luxury to be a bohemian. I say, do we have to? She says, you are too old to have no number. Get me a number. I need a number. She says, what if there's another emergency? Then hangs up. When I leave, the urinating man says, gotcha, and leaps into the booth. The radiator bursts to life on a Wednesday. Okay, I'm going to stop for a second because I actually realized I should tell you what it's about a little bit. Yeah, try. It's about a woman who suddenly decides to leave her husband in her apartment one night and walks and wanders and ends up living with a crazy old woman in the West Village. That's all. The radiator bursts to life on a Wednesday. It's been a month, or 2, or 3 since I arrived. Though I didn't have much to spare, my body has rid itself of excess mass and memories. Sexual memories of my husband, screened in those dark theaters, are so hushed that my new life is easily established through the details. Morning tea, afternoon sandwiches, endless typing, the cleaning of mirrors. I've taken to wearing her old dresses. They are 2 large, printed flower affairs, but I like the way they cascade down my puny shoulders and hips like color waterfalls. Their rich hues, red wine, velvet green, calf brown, never compete. Inspection, Costanza shouts whenever I prepare to leave the apartment. Then she puffs my sleeves, tightens my sash, and smooths my hair with shaky hands. Sometimes I sense her watching me. I wake up at dawn and she's there and says desperately, "Are you leaving?" "Don't be annoying, Costanza," I say, "go back to sleep." We walk briskly, Costanza and I, and never dawdle. The neighborhood finds us eccentric, even the depressing saxophonist from the 6th floor with his 40-year-old son who sits on the stoop catcalling preteens with Carter. Of course, we don't care. Costanza and I are not bugs into fabric. We are not specimens under glass. I pick up our supplies at a local grocer. Just as time stands still for me in Costanza's apartment, it seems to have frozen on her street as well. Sometimes I feel like I'm in the back lot of a movie studio, one of those streets that look like New York, and then white particles drift from the sky and we're kissing. And I'm kissing the grocer. I don't know his name, but he's from Cairo, I think. One day, the grocer says, "Zahi." So I say, "Zahi." No, he says, "Zahi is my name." When he laughs, his head moves and his hair shines, and I think he puts Vaseline in his hair, and he extends a hand. I wave whilst balancing several tins of meat and pickle jars in my arm. It's Margaret. Margaret? He has difficulty pronouncing the ugliness of the word. Yes. "Oh," he says. He seems disappointed. I don't blame him. I pay, then hesitate. I grab a bunch of bananas. These 2. He waves his wrist and his wristwatch jangles. "A gift," he says. "I'm in love with you." "Thank you," I say, then leave quickly. When a man emerges as an admirer, does he earn the right to inhabit the lady's thoughts? Is that the least she can do? I swing my bag of tins and bananas on my right arm. My left hand is so childish. It pretends it's holding a hand. It cups and it curves. And my right hand is embarrassed for my left hand. My right hand wants to punish my left hand. Carter's on the stoop. He gives me an envelope and waits for change. Fake snow from a TV production on Hudson collects on the lapels of his overcoat. The letter reads, "Come back. I want you to come back. Every night I wait for you to open the door with your key. I wait for the sound of your key in the lock." It's written on my husband's company's letterhead, and that makes me unbearably sad. Office molecules fall into my lap. I sense a sandwich and a latte and the faint odor of clear tape. Clutching my stomach, I fall back onto the musty files littering our couch. Costanza rushes to my side. I show her the letter. She clucks. I whisper, "The grocer's name is Zahi." She clucks again. I put both hands out, then palm sides up, then clap them together. Costanza and I go to the park to drink wine. We're nearing the end of her book. She wants the last 10 pages to have only 1 word per page. Whisper. If I say the word whisper out loud, it reminds me of how I feel about particles and pieces of things, because hidden in the word is a secret tongue movement, a susurration, and the piece of fake snow falling on a fake New York street. The next morning I rise to deep purple skies. When the tea is ready, I take it to Costanza, but she doesn't say good morning. She's stiff and her skin, normally painted orange yellow, is gray. I rush from her room and through the tea tray at the sink. Then I run outside in my t-shirt and find Carter on the stoop, and together we walk back to Costanza's bed, and I gently place an antique silver hand mirror under her nose. There's no breath. I move it closer. Jesus Christ, she shouts. I'm so shocked I drop the mirror on Costanza, and so she wheezes. Carter snatches the mirror off her chest and throws it across the floor, where it skips but lands unharmed. With the alacrity of a bird, Costanza checks her body for signs of death, and once satisfied, gives me a hard look. I was scared, I say. Costanza's feather white hair is oily and pushed away from her skull. Her eyebrows haven't been painted, so she looks like a blank, like nothing, like natural matter. And she starts to cry these milky tears, and it's so ugly. I was scared, I say again. I look around for Carter, but he has already, wisely, left the room. I alone am Costanza's emergency contact. This was on the landing, Zahi says. He hands me a gray plastic VHS tape case. Inside is a yellow sticky note from my husband that reads, "Let's talk about what I wrote the last time." It turns out that Zahi is not an immigrant. He's a college dropout from Baltimore who moved to the city to work in his uncle's shop. He takes night classes in business at Hunter. I thought you had an accent, I say. I'm used to that. I would be embarrassed, but he's beaming at me. I think he might really be in love with me, so even my racism is charming. Costanza is throwing this fete to celebrate the fact that she's alive. Her presence is definitely felt. She wears a bejeweled cloak over a bejeweled house dress, and she smells like roses and dirt and baby powder. Carter is there as well to, as Costanza said, round out the numbers. I set down a store-bought rotisserie chicken. Though we are only serving soup and chicken, Costanza's laid out many forks and dishes to make it look festive. Carter makes grabby hands at the chicken. He says, "Grace, please," Costanza says. "God is great. God hits a spot. God made food. Let's eat it while it's hot." Carter tears the bird apart. Costanza adjusts her forks. Zahi stares until I feel naked. I wish he wouldn't look at me quite so intensely. I mean, it's a nice scene. Wine, candles, a cooked bird. The sort of scene where the heroine could find a home and a makeshift family and maybe even love, but it's not like that. I look at the pinpricks of hair on Zahi's cheeks. Do they hurt him? I want him to hurt. I'm in Zahi's room and fancy foreign music is playing in the background while Zahi scratches my cheeks with the tip of his fingernails. Fall agrees with you, he says. Please leave me alone. Costanza turns from me to Zahi. She says, "Isn't Margaret striking?" "Margaret is striking," Zahi says. "Margaret is not striking," I say. "Margaret is stick and bones and stuck up," Carter says. "Nonsense," Costanza says. "Not true," Zahi says. I slump so low in my chair that my chin hits the table. "All she would be good for is a joke and a poke," Carter says. I sit up and wipe grease from my chin. That's probably true. Zahi has brought expensive chocolate bars. I break them apart and serve them on a platter. Costanza plays the piano. Carter gyrates. We get a little drunk. Zahi runs a finger along my collarbone. "I like a challenge," he says. I'm troubled, but even more excited now. More notes delivered in stoop sale VHS tapes arrive from my husband. They're slipped between the tape and the cardboard sleeve. Children of the Corn, Houseboat, The Last Unicorn. I stack them on the landing. Zahi sends me Mexican and Floridian oranges through his intermediary, Carter. I put them in the clawfoot bathtub. My life narrows. Costanza's apartment is my time capsule. I go strong between its soft layers. Just as we, Costanza and I, protect the furniture and books and endless piles of lovely rubbish, I too am protected here. One chilly morning, just after breakfast of tea and yogurt, a terrible thing happens though. I'm clacking away at the electric typewriter and Costanza is humming about at her toilette in the back bedroom when all of the air in the apartment is suddenly sucked out through the slit under the front door. I open the door but there's no air in the landing either. It's as if some great godlike being has slurped up all the life in the city, leaving us inexplicably suspended. I'm neither hot nor cold. In fact, there is no such thing as temperature, though I remember that the word has meaning. I wave my hand in front of my face. No wind. I press my finger down on the letter E, but there's no sound. Through the mirror in the living room, I can see Costanza humming on mute. Crack. Thud. A pigeon pigeon, crashes into the window pane and falls back onto the ledge. Air rushes back. There's a storm of wings outside the window as the pigeon's pals chirp worriedly and fly away. I can hear Costanza hum again, and again I am cold. Pigeon's eyeball is opaque and orange around its black pupil. It's most certainly a dumb pigeon, and most certainly dead. Costanza finds me kneeling, my eye up against the window pane. Jesus, she says, open the window. My knees wobble on the floorboard. Oh, I'll do it. Costanza flicks the gray mass over the ledge with her nail. It lands next to a tricycle at the bottom of the courtyard. That's what you get with the first floor garden. She shuts the window. I type while Costanza breathes over my shoulder. Sometimes I close my eyes and see the black and orange rings of my pigeon's left eyeball. Pigeons pick and pick, then move on. I am like a rodent, burrowing deep till I get to the other side. In the evenings, my wrists cramp and my forearms ache. Oranges arrive, so do tapes. My body wants to be inside out, yet I succumb to neither offer. In fact, I enjoy the potential of both oranges and tapes. This is a hen terrine, and we eat together in the silence of a second-tier holiday. At night, the Bavarians sway, and my left hand cups and curves while my right makes fists. Costanza loves to dance like a flapper. I pull my sweater close to my body and nod my head to her 20s beat. A glorious warmth spreads through my bodies until my cheeks are hot and flushed. For a moment, I think I can stay here forever, and why couldn't I? Who would stop me? My breath is shallow now. I shiver beneath the quilt. A man's phantom hands grip my thighs, but I would stop me. We must expand and contract. We must shove ourselves into holes and boxes meant for others. We must remain forever vigilant, waiting and wanting. Another TV production blasts rockets of plastic snow above the rooftops. By the time the snow passes our window, it falls sweetly, like sifted flour, and suddenly I must bake a cake. I wear the brown velvet dress and put my hair up to go to the grocer for baking powder, but there's an old and angular version of Zahi behind the counter. He wears a tacky gold cross and sniffs the air when I approach. I ask, where is Zahi? He says, where do you think, lady? At school? With his problems? Costanza forgets to turn the oven on, so we don't have cake till 2 in the morning. By that time, we're already sticky with port wine, but we don't care. We eat with our fingers. The next evening, I follow Zahi's uncle to a tenement in Chinatown. There's a light on in the top right corner of the building. Zahi's face is pressed against the window. When the uncle leaves an hour later, I ring the buzzer. Zahi is cocky and sad, then nervous and joyful afterwards. His insecurity is like a lighthouse. Its beam is exhausting. Sometimes things feel episodic, I say. We stand under a sickly yellow street lamp. The city sucks, Zahi says. I'm moving back to Baltimore. Come with me. He takes my right hand and puts it inside my mitten. He does the same with my left. It's scary and sort of dumb, like a ceremony. So I have to run home. Costanza massages my temples, as though I've been made invalid by intercourse. She says, you think you're the cat's pajamas. I am the cat's pajamas. She says, you just can't slide in and out, whimsy-pimsy. But I can, though I shouldn't. I have a nightmare about my pigeon, or to be exact, I have a nightmare about its twin, who's roaming the city in search of his brother. In my nightmare, the pigeon is not dumb, but suicidal, and the twin also kills himself on our window pane. Thank you.